My name is Elizabeth Derryberry, and today I just want to share my story of how through Christ's unyielding love and boundless forgiveness, He literally saved my life. It is a story of trauma, hurt, and pain, but one that ultimately led to redemption, freedom, and a joy I never knew possible. Though there are many verses throughout my story that were breathed into life, this verse is mine. It resounds the biblical truth of how God saved me from death. So I'm just going to begin with that. In 2 Corinthians 12:9 it says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I will boast of my infirmities, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Prior to the turns that my life would take, I'd given my heart and my life to Christ at a very young age. I was His, and so was my life. Later, still at a very young age, I became a victim of multi-state trafficking for several years until I was eventually found, rescued, and returned home. Through that, I had my purity stolen. My self-worth was destroyed. And even though they were childlike, the dreams that I had for my life were lost. Those experiences had changed me, reshaped me from the little girl that I'd been before, and continued to reverberate through many more years to come. When certain things happen to you or are taken from you, things that in your mind define who you are, not only in the world's eyes, but in God's eyes, it kind of hurls you in a direction that otherwise you'd probably never have gone. But sadly, you go because it's all you believe that you have to offer, and that now it's who you are. I finally found myself in a deep depression, and after many days of crying and excruciating pain, I'd reached the end of my rope. I had seen doctors and therapists, I'd taken medications, everything I could think of, all just in vain, trying to combat a suffering that I couldn't even understand, and a pain that I couldn't even locate the source of where it was coming from. All I knew was I couldn't take it anymore. It had to stop, and I had run out of ideas. As my desperation grew to be free of whatever it was that was drowning me, I made the only choice that I felt like I had left. I did what was necessary, and then I just laid. I rested in the relief that I knew soon it would all be over. As I was drawing what I knew was most likely my final breath, I mustered up a whisper. It was a name that I hadn't uttered in years. Jesus, don't forget about me. Take me home. And then as if he was standing right beside me, he replied, "No, I forgive you and I love you." It was a voice that I'll never forget, and I long for the day I get to hear again. Outside of his holy name, to me, there are no two more profound statements in the English language than those. I love you, and I forgive you. Isaiah 53:5 says, "But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed." In that moment, a warmth washed over my body, and it was as if every cell was vibrating. I took in a deep breath, as if it were the first time I'd ever drawn breath. I had no idea what had just happened. And I ran to a mirror because I thought, I must be dead. This is it. He had saved my life. My broken heart was healed, renewed, and washed clean. It was no longer leaking that pain and suffering and darkness that it had been before. My self-worth was completely restored, and the ability to let go of things that I had held against myself, that I could not let go of through my strength alone, were gone. But he didn't just take away the pain. He replaced it tenfold with an overflowing joy, so great that I almost couldn't contain it in front of people. He knew what I needed was forgiveness and love, not death. He knew that his purpose for my life had not been fulfilled. So my story couldn't end there. Mine is a story of the power of his forgiveness. My very life hinged on my unknowing need for that, and his ability to provide that forgiveness that only he can. I want others to see me as a living example that no matter what we've done and no matter what's been done to us, only he can determine our worth. Only he can condemn or redeem. And only he can wash us clean with the power to give us a new life inside his love. I am proof that he sees our hearts and he knows what we need, even when we don't know ourselves. My story, my very existence, is living proof that through Christ, love does work and forgiveness will set you free.
Elizabeth, I can't wait to see the continuation of your story in all the extraordinary ways that God's going to use your testimony in the ways that you're going to prove love works to countless people. So it is our privilege as One City Church to baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna